Welcome back to another episode of the Pain, Performance, and Bravado podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nick Smith. I'm a licensed physical therapist and a strength and conditioning coach for jiu-jitsu and other combat athletes. Today, I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit. I had a conversation with a mom of a youth athlete just yesterday, and she was sharing with me some of the interactions that she had with this other provider. Now, this provider happened to be a chiropractor, which I don't really have beef with chiropractors as long as they're doing their job, because I've heard this same kind of harmful language used even within my own community, other coaches, doctors. So this talk and this rant is really, these hands are for anybody, rated E for everybody. If you talk like this to your athletes, your clients, your whatever, you should not be practicing medicine. And it's really important that healthcare providers that you interact with are not giving you what we call nocebo language, things that are really harmful. The way I communicate with my athletes has a lasting impact far beyond when I work with them. The things that I'm telling them, the things I'm encouraging them with, those shape your brain in a way more so than the exercises ever will. And perception of an athlete's injury is oftentimes more important than any kind of intervention. So if I can remodel that, if I can change it, if I can instill new beliefs in an athlete over the course of our time together, I've won, so to say. I've done my job as a provider. I can give the most legendary coaching exercises, all these like wonderful details that is just elite level. And if I haven't changed how the athlete perceives their injury from maybe possibly a negative perception of it, I've failed as a coach. So my job is oftentimes more psychological and emotional than physical in a lot of cases, especially if somebody's had an injury for a long period of time, or the injury that they sustained was a really traumatic experience. Maybe they had a really severe and painful, very scary incident that resulted in some kind of tear or, a dislocation of a shoulder, something that truly was traumatic. And the way that they perceive that injury is not positive. So I'm going to dive into this story, and this is something that maybe you've heard firsthand, or maybe you've heard a variation of this story being told to you. And I'll give some other examples of common things I hear, but this one is top of mind, so I really want to talk about it. This youth athlete has had shoulder pain for a significant amount of time. He grapples, he wrestles, I think he does some MMA also. And they went to a chiropractor to get some assessments done, and this athlete has a fair bit of scapular winging. And what that means is, if you look at somebody's shoulder blade, it's in relative, you're watching me on camera right now, there's like relative internal rotation. You can kind of dig underneath it. It sticks out, it protrudes. Now, scapular winging is not necessarily a bad thing. Some people just naturally have a little bit of that. And some people have it with their resting posture, but as soon as they move dynamically, it goes away. So it's not really a problem. There are some very unique cases where you might have some nerve damage due to an injury, a traumatic fall, a car accident, where there's a lesion to a specific part of a nerve that does not innervate those muscles anymore, causing that really specific scapular winging. So, short end of the story, this athlete goes in, gets assessed by a chiropractor, and he's demonstrating this scapular winging. And that provider proceeds to tell both this young athlete and the mom, there's nothing we can do to fix this. The nerves are not innervating the rhomboid muscle, and he's going to need surgery to fix that. I'm laughing, but actually I'm really pissed off about this, because I think that One, it's inaccurate, and I'll explain why. Shortly after this conversation was had, this mom, who I've also worked on one of her other children, and we have a good relationship, she sent me the video of the scapular winging, and it's there. It's very prevalent, right? I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, cool. You know, a little bit of internal rotation. I've seen this countless times, even with high-level pitchers for baseball, quarterbacks. It's not that uncommon. I'm like, okay, it's, you know, moderate amount of winging. The rhomboid is an internal rotator of the scapula. It's also a downward rotator, and it also adducts the scapula, meaning it brings it towards the spine. As soon as she was done with the video, she's like placing her hand where it's winging, and the kid proceeds to squeeze his shoulder blades together. And in perfect unison, both of them adduct the exact same way. Now, for those of you who are listening, you're like, who fucking cares? But it's hilarious that this chiropractor made this assessment based on just looking at him and didn't actually test it, because the rhomboids are adductors and he can clearly recruit it. But a certain feature or a certain muscle is clearly not being activated, which is probably causing the winging with other motions. But to extrapolate something based on resting posture, not test it, and then proceed to throw out some wild assessment that somebody needs surgery for this, when they're not having resting pain, they're not having any like other signs. It's like, holy crap. It's amazing that people are going through medical school and just spewing absolute nonsense to their patients. And this probably happens all the time. And it's baffling to me. Other forms of this, I'm going to get off my high horse on that particular story. I'm going to talk about some other ones that are commonly said. You might have gone into a doctor's visit, you know, for a knee injury, and they might have said something along the lines of like, oh, you have the knees of a 70-year-old. It's like, okay, great. What does that mean? It's always inferred that there's some kind of negative tone to that. Like, oh, you've used up all of your HP points, or, you know, you have no more hearts left. You're going to die. Your knees are done. You're cooked. And they'll throw out these like crazy assessments without giving you any kind of opportunity or anything to salvage the moment. Just like, well, you got the knees. Based on what? Anybody who's read literature knows that arthritis, any kind of meniscus tears, you look at an image, just because you see something in the knee that looks abnormal does not necessarily mean that the person is experiencing pain. Adversely to that, there are people who are experiencing pain who have nothing wrong with their knees based on an image, X-ray, MRI, CT scan, etc. So you might have heard something like this. Maybe even, somebody's told you like, you have bad posture, or your glutes aren't firing. That's my favorite. That's actually not my favorite. I hate it. Your glutes aren't firing. I could come up with a bunch of these, but I'm drawing a blank. But these are pretty common ones that I hear. You can fill me in the comments if there's something else that somebody's told you that is absurd. The point I'm trying to make is your provider giving you this piece of information and then providing nothing to remedy it is a complete waste of time and downright harmful. You will come away from that session without any trust in your provider. You will come out with less autonomy, less confidence in your own body and your ability to overcome what you were feeling. And ultimately, you have nothing to go off of, right? If somebody goes into this and being like, hey, I think that, I'm seeing something that moves a little bit faulty, but what's nice about this is we can activate it. There are ways to kind of trigger these motions to somewhat normalize your movement pattern. This amount of, asymmetry, this amount of, movement that you have in your shoulder is, very normal. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have pain because of it. So here are some things you can do. Here's what you can do to fix your situation. Here's what you can do to help yourself. There's an opportunity there. Instill confidence, allow them to gain ownership of their injury, and to show them a path of how to actually remedy the problem instead of just telling them there's a problem and just like, here you go. take this and then, see you later. And, it's frustrating as a clinician. It's frustrating to be, especially working with a sport like, jiu-jitsu or anything that's combat sports. It's so unique. The demands of it are insane, as you know, and to not have somebody who truly understands what is safe, what is not safe, where's that gray area, should I rest, should I train on it, how much should I train on it, be able to just have these simple tools seems like it should be a really basic thing, but a lot of people can't offer that. And so they'll just start these like outlandish statements and just write you off. It's just like, well, you should stop training this, do something else. And so many kids out there are being told to quit the sport that they love instead of given some kind of tactical piece on how you can turn safely. Or they just, go back and say screw it and just blow themselves up and make things worse and end up having the surgery, and maybe they end up quitting anyway. But the point I'm trying to make at the end of this is, if you've ever felt put down, let down by your provider, if your doctor has disappointed you, if your physical therapist has told you something negative about yourself, and it may seem harmless in the moment, but like being told that, your glutes aren't firing is really harmful, because then you put it in your head that like something's wrong with you. And if it feels a certain way, like I can't tell you how many times I've had athletes like, oh, my glutes not firing the right way. It's like, oh my God, who told them that 6 years ago, But if you've ever felt that way, it sucks. And I'm sorry, genuinely. It really makes me mad that people have had to experience that firsthand. But I do also want you to know that there are good clinicians out there who genuinely care about you. They genuinely want you to succeed. And they are equipped to be able to help you in a very productive way. They're not going to give you a bunch of nonsense. They're not going to give you this nocebo language of why you're messed up. And they're really going to show you the opportunities of how to take care of yourself and attract yourself to those people. I hope you have somebody in your corner that can do that for you. If you've had negative experiences in the past and you're just like, I've written off all doctors and medical personnel, I get it. I really do. I could see some of the stories I've heard. I'm like, I don't even know why you would even want to approach somebody like me after all the experiences you've had, and just not being able to get, the right care. But if you're somebody who has had negative experiences like that, and maybe there's a little bit of hope left in you, like maybe there is something out there for you, I'd love to be able to connect with you, whether it's, we end up working together down the line, or I can point you in the right direction of some resources or people that, hey, these are good, reliable sources of information. These are good people you should follow. They're going to encourage you to work through these things. Here's how to do it tactically. Here's how to work through some of these emotional, psychological hurdles that you might experience so that you can really enjoy the sport to the fullest of your abilities. I want to be able to do that for you. So that's somebody that, if I can be that resource for you, whether directly or indirectly, please, always welcome to reach out to me. You can contact me through the show notes. I'm always on Instagram. You can email me. Love to be able to talk to you and be able to point you in the right direction. But till then, remember, pain is not necessarily something you should fear, just something you should respect. See you on the next episode. See you.